Good evening, participants. Sorry for postponing the session, as in because of my health condition, I have to do this. So sorry for it. So anyway, we'll start off with the presentation. So today's session, what I'll be doing is that. So I'll be focusing on speculative fiction and posthumanism, and the other one is posthumanism and medical humanities. So these two topics will be covered for today's session. So speculative fiction. So when we start off with the speculative fiction, it has been divided into different genres of when we talk about the speculative fiction. So it comprises of three different literary genres. So the basically three different genres that we come across when we talk about the speculative fiction is that of science fiction, then fantasy, and also the horror novels. That is what we categorize under the speculative fiction. So what are the other concepts, or what are the other relative theories that we can see when we talk about the speculative fiction is that the concepts that we most of it deals with the futuristic science, and then the alternative worlds. As in alternative worlds we come across as in the space and all those things. Okay, then the supernatural elements, and also the post-apocalyptic. So these are the things that most of the speculative fiction deals with. Okay, so now we come across as in when we talk about this speculative fiction and posthumanism. Okay, so this is actually being entwined between two important concepts when we talk about the speculative fiction. So what are the two concepts that the speculative fiction mainly focuses on is posthumanism and also transhumanism. So it's actually entwined between the posthumanism and transhumanism. So when we talk about the posthumanism and transhumanism, we come across some of the film text, some of the fictional works, and some of the documentaries. So these are some things that we come across when we talk about the posthuman and transhuman. Okay, so this framework, when we talk about the speculative fiction and posthuman framework, it is the way of, it speaks of how the modernity and the way of constructing human is being defined. Okay, so this involves two important things, two aspects. The first one is about how the modernity is being represented through the way of how the human is being constructed. That is what we talk about the speculative fiction and posthumanism. So the next thing what we see here is that what is the relationship that we see when we talk about the speculative fiction and posthumanism. So this relationship is being divided into three different categories. It's been divided in three different streams. So when we talk about the three different streams, the first one is known as the Overhuman. The second one is known as a new human, and the third one is the non-human. Okay, so three different aspects when we talk about the relationship between the speculative fiction and posthumanism. So the first one is Überhuman, the second one is new human, and the last one is non-human. So what is this Überhuman? Okay, so Überhuman refers to how the future humans are having that superior strength, or how their intelligence is being defined. Okay, so some examples that I would like to tell you all is that some powers, or some new powers that we have been developed through technology, like for example the genomic engineering, then mechanical prosthetics. Okay, so these are something that we talk about the Überhuman. Okay, so the next one is that it basically questions the humanism, as in like even you can come under, even you can take a higher extent of Homo sapiens, that also can be categorized under the Überhuman. The next one is new human. So what is this new human is? The new human is comprised of text, okay, where they question how the category of human. So from when we talk about from the people's point of view, as in how they have been excluded from the marginalized. For example, the poor or the working class or the colonized people. Okay, so how they have been segregated, or how they have been completely secluded. Okay, so how they have the technological interventions and how they create a new body. That is what you talk about the new human. Okay, so here you come across as in the people who are actually excluded, that is the marginalized people. So how they have this technological interventions and how they form a new human body. That is what is the new human that we see. The next one is the non-human. So non-human, we all know that non-human is something that it's about projecting the future or the imagined world which we humans live in. Okay, so how we actually, when we embed with the technology or when we are embodying with the missions, how are we being created like animals, robots, okay, AI. So how we are able to connect with the plants, aliens. So these are something that the non-human represents. Okay, so these are the three important streams when we talk about the speculative fiction and the post-humanism. So now, next, what we see here is that how the speculative fiction raises some questions. Okay, so what are the questions that we can talk about when we are able to connect with the post-humanism, as in how the nature of human and the possible futures is being created. Okay, so the best one I would tell is about H.G. Wells. So H.G. Wells, you can see there are some H.G. Wells, a famous work that is the Time Machine, right? And there are other works where you come across, there are some scientific romances and how the evolution theory is being brought in. Okay, so here you can see how in most of his works you can see how humans are being regarded as one unique species. Okay, that is between the natural and the divine world. That is what we see when we talk about the H.G. Wells. So the next important work when we talk about H.G. Wells is the Time Machine. So this Time Machine was actually published in the year 1895, where you come across how in the thousands of years, how a future world is being projected, okay, under the dominion of the humankind. Okay, so the next important work of H.G. Wells is The Island of Dr. Murray. Okay, so here you come across how humans and the other animals are being distinguished. Okay, and how a scientist's vision is being obsessed by creating a new bodies and the animals. That is what you come across when we talk about the Island of Dr. Moore. Okay, so these speculative fiction. Okay, so these speculative fiction texts, what we mainly see here is that they mainly focus on the gender, they mainly focus on the racialism and also the class hierarchies through the human concept in a westernized form. That is what we see in most of the speculative fiction text. So this writer, which I mentioned now, the new one, that is Olive Stapledon. So this writer's famous work, that is The Last and First Men. Okay. So this work, what you can see here is that you can see it's about the human race. Okay. How the human race was actually been brought into, how they have actually been have the evolution. Okay. And about 2 billion years, their history and all those things that you come across in the Last and the First Men. And you also come across how the different humans are being born, are actually born through the psionic powers. So what is the psionic powers is that some like telepathy, then telekinesis, then mind control. So these are something that's actually been there that we talk about the psionic powers, especially the work of Van Wiget's land. So in Van Wiget's land, you come across how even the humans have been using this psionic powers and how they are evolving into a different human. That is what you see in Van Wiget's land. Okay. So the next important critical work. Okay. So now we saw about what are the other fictions that we see when we talk about the speculative fiction. So now we see an important critical work. So what is the important critical work is Theodore Sturgeon's the famous work that is More Than Human. So this, what we see here is that how the future humans, okay, how the future humans have been more empathetic towards the new humans. Okay, so how the, for example, the missions evolving, okay, how the humans have been able to embed with the missions, so how they are very empathy, how they are actually being able to approach all those things you come across in More Than Human. He just tells the theories and concepts, how the human evolution has been done through the technologies and how they are actually being empathetic towards the nature. That's what you see in Theodore Sturgeon's. Okay. So next one is the famous writer that whom we see, that is Octavia Butler. So Octavia Butler, you all don't need any introduction. So we all know that she's a famous writer who's famous for so many works, like you come across the Wild Sea, Dawn. So this one is Patternist series. So in this work, that is her ground work, okay, her groundbreak work, where we see this Patternist series, you come across the racialist history, okay, how the racialist history is being projected, okay, especially towards the better future. As in, you come across here, you come across some characters where they are being represented the alien forms, like, okay, so how they have been taking that mind control, all those things you come across in Octavia Butler's. Okay, so this pattern series, mainly what you can see here is that how particular people have been belonging to the egalitarian community, okay, how they are actually facing a lot of differences among the people whom they meet. Okay, so you also come across certain characters where they have been belonging to a different community and how they struggle to cope up with the other people. So that is the patternist series that you come across. Okay, and the next one, what you see here is that what is the other themes that when we talk about the speculative fiction is that it's about the vision of superhuman. Okay, so what is a superhuman? We all know that's non-human, new human, uberhuman was there. So what is the superhuman is that the superhuman is that when we embed with the technology, we are evolving into different people, right? So that is known as, we come across the different powers and all those things. So that is what is known as the superhuman. So what are the other texts that we talk about in this superhuman things is that, so this early speculative fiction, most of it you come across the concept of inhumanity. Okay, so this concept of inhumanity, why this concept of inhumanity was brought in is that before the technology, before the involvement, before the embodiment of technology, this concept was brought in. It was actually put forward by Cardwainer. Okay, so Cardwainer Smith, this book that is Scanners Live in Vain. So here you come across as in, it's about the projection of a future where it's like a space travel, okay, and how the bodies of criminals, as in the dehumanized criminals are controlled, and how it's actually been taken place by the space travel, and how it's been, the ship was actually being piloted by the criminals. That is what the story that you see here. Okay, so then their bodies, okay, when we talk about their bodies, as in how their projection of space travel, okay, and how they are embodied with the technologies. Okay, so these bodies you see, they have been monitored through electronic instruments. Okay, so whatever they do, okay, whether their data or everything, their health or experience, everything you come across, their data are based on their experience and all those things which we segregate as the alienation in the space travel. Okay, so this work mainly focuses on the space travel and how the control is being done by the criminals, as in how their bodies have been monitored with electronic instrument, and also how their ships are piloted by the criminals. So the next, what are the other fictions that we see here is that it's about the disembodied consciousness. So what is this disembodied consciousness is that the merging of missions. Okay, so when we talk about the merging of missions, as in there will be some software that is being that's been uploaded in a human body. Okay, so that embodiment or that technology or software that has been uploaded, that's where we come across the disembodied consciousness. So the best example, what I would tell for this embodied consciousness, that it's the work of Pat Cadigan. Okay, so if you come across Pat Cadigan Sinners, there is a software that has been uploaded on these the characters, and they form a new person. Okay, so that you come across the disembodied consciousness. Okay, so when we talk about the disembodied consciousness, so most of the cyberpunk films or most of the cyberpunk fiction you come across, they deal with the merging of missions, especially with the software uploading with them. Okay, so this was actually brought in the year 1980s. So now in the next slide, we'll see who are the writers and who are the famous, as in what are the other critical works and the film texts that we can see. So Larry MC Caffrey. Okay, so Larry MC Caffrey, okay, a critical writer who's famous for the work Storming the Reality Studio. So this one, you come across this book, mainly what you see is that you come across a collection of critical essays. Okay, then some interviews also where you see she tells about the hacker heroes. Okay, how the hacker heroes are very popular in the virtual reality, and how dystopian future is being brought in, and how the humans and technology, that merging is being depicted in most of the cyberpunk fiction that she tells it. Okay, so now let's see some of the movies. Okay, so some films, like when we talk about the Matrix. Okay, so this Matrix, I think everyone must have watched this movie. So this Matrix, you see, it was in the year 1999, where you see that it's about the AI and how they have been including the transhumanism, as in the transcendence. Okay, so during the transcendence, which was very popular, so how that was actually being brought in here. Okay, so cyberpunk, when we talk about the cyberpunk, that term itself, we all know that most of it, what they do is that they reject the complete body. Okay, then they also want the freedom of their experience of being in the online. So experience of being in the online, as in it's like the merging with the technologies. Okay, so that is what you come across here. So one such text is Slain. So this one, where you can see is that it's about a feminist cyber culture. Okay, so feminist cyber culture, what you see here is that, as in how female characters are merged with the technologies, and this is the first feminist cyber culture text that is being brought in. Okay, so how they form into a new characters. So that is what the feminist cyber culture here we see. So the other one, that is Nicola Nixon. So this Nicola Nixon is a cyberpunk writer. So he is the one who first brought in the concept of counter culture. Okay, so when we talk about certain concepts and all those things, you can, in your research, you can also bring in some concepts, like you can bring in some particular concepts and you can apply it. So this counterculture by Nicola Nixon, what we see here is that it's about the cyber culture and also the technology, how they have been able to collaborate with the feminist theories. So feminist theories, like you can also, when we talk about feminist theories like Ellen Showalter, Simone de Beauvoir, so all those things, how the feminist theories is being intertwined with the technology and also with the cyber culture. So when we talk about the feminist theories and cyber culture, that's when we come across this cyber feminism. Okay, so cyber feminism, you all know that it's about a woman who's actually involved in the space, internet, and how they play a prominent role. So the same thing you also see, as in how the cyber culture is being represented from a feminist point of view. Okay, but with the entwinement of the technology. That is what is being defined as the counter culture. So here you come across how what are the different theories of feminism has been collaborated with the technology, and how this cyber culture plays a major role in that. That is what is Nicola Nixon tries to implement in his work. Okay, so the next writer that whom we see is that Annie Balsamo. So Annie Balsamo, American writer who's famous for the work The Technologies of the Gendered Body. Okay, so this was actually published in the year 1995, where you see that how the female writers are collaborating with the cyberpunk. as in how they give a very importance, they play a prominent role, and they give importance for their body. Okay, so the body, when we see as in how the technology and the body is being intertwined, okay, how these female writers take up the body as a main issue, and how they actually bring in through the characters, the embodiment of the technology with the characters of human, the female characters, how they entwine. So some of the importance of that, as in the body emerging with the technology, some writers, like I have named just two writers, but some writers which I would like to tell is Pat Cadigan, then Laura Mixon, then Liza Mason. Okay, so these writers you come across as in the most of their female characters they embed with the technology, and how they have been brought in the cyberpunk fiction evolved through the concept of posthumanism. So then other one which I want to tell is that I have not mentioned here, but it's about the uh, Misha. Okay, so Laurel Misha, another critic who tells that how the indigenous people, okay, how the indigenous people are being represented through the cultural imaginaries. Okay, so when we talk about how these people are being represented, the cultural imaginaries is like the colonial genocide, and how their labor is being exploited because of the humans, as in liberal humans. Okay, so that is what Laura Misha critiques in her work. Okay, so some of the feminist speculative fiction stories that I would tell is that it's James Tiptree, The Girl Who Was Plugged In. Okay, so in this work, what you can see here is that it's about how the human goes beyond their limitations. Okay, it's about the limitations of humans. Okay, and how the and also the animal subjectivity also is being represented. Okay, so when we talk about this speculative fiction and posthumanism, we came across the different kinds of human. Okay, so when we came across the different kinds of human, what are they mainly focusing on? Okay, so they mainly focus on the racism, the sexist, and also the Afrofuturist culture. Okay, so most of the times, when we talk about this Afrofuturism, you might have come across this Octavia Butler's, right? So this also you see as in how the speculative fiction and posthumanism, they focus on three different categories apart from the humanism. So now we all know that when we talk about posthumanism, we cannot ignore Donna Haraway. Okay, so Donna Haraway, the famous work that is A Cyborg Manifesto, where we see here is that she tells that how the cyborg is a unique creature which rejects the binaries of modernity. Okay, but it also paves way like the organism or mission, then the humans and animals, and virtual and material. So these are some things that we focus on when we talk about cyborg. Okay, so cyborg, we all know that it's a mission argumented body, but they also ignore the feminist intervention. So that is what is Donna Haraway tries to tell us. Okay, so what she tells is that how the gender is being represented through the ideas, as in how the figure, the cyborg figure, is being represented through a gender, the race or class. Okay, so they have been, the race or class has not been defined when we talk about the cyborg, but the gender aspects we can see, okay, in some text. Okay, so the next thing what we see here is the science and technology studies. So the science and technology studies is, there are some authors that we come across in the science and technology studies. So some writers like Jonna Russ, then John Varley, and James Tiptree, and Octavia Butler. So these writers, you come across how the science and technology plays a major role with the feminist point of view, with the feminist text. Okay, so that is what we see here. And next we see how the cultural interventions plays a major role in the posthumanism of speculative fiction. So here you come across the impact of information technology, and also the genomic technologies. As in genomic technologies, we represent as in what are the technologies that we are able to use on daily life. okay, and how it's been affected to the environment. So that also you can see. And next one is the cyber culture studies. So this feminist cyber culture studies is these two writers that we can talk about, that is Jenny Woolmark and Patricia Melzer. So these are not all the fictions, some critical text, that is what I'm telling. Okay, so this work, that is Aliens and Others and Bodies of Tomorrow. So these work you come across the cyber culture stories that you see. So when we talk about the cyber culture stories, that's when we are reminded of Donna Haraway's The Camille Stories. Okay, so this Camille Stories is that how the humans are able to fuse with the animal species and how they want to preserve the animal species. That is what the story, that is Camille Stories, mainly focus on. So it's actually a project which Donna Haraway brought in after this Cyborg Manifesto, where she tells them how the humans have chosen to be fused with the animal species, especially to preserve the species, as in to preserve the human community. Okay, humans and the animals community. That is what we see here. So the next one, what we see here is that, as in Donna Haraway's The Children of Compass. Okay, so this Children of Compass is being associated with the popular imagination. So when you talk about the popular imagination or the popular culture, so here you see that in that text you come across how the cyborgs are being, how the militarized cyborgs is being brought in, okay, with the fantasies of transhuman thing. Okay, so that is what we see. And next one is the posthuman and ecology. So when we talk about the posthuman and ecology in speculative fiction, there is one work, that is Eric Ottaz and Chris Park. Okay, so these work values see that the concept of organism and environment. Okay, so how that is being brought in. And then you come across another writer, that is Sklon C. Whiskey. Okay, so Sklon C. Whiskey, this writer you come across, he talks about the brain plague and the highest frontier. So in that work, what he tells is that how the humans are able to live in an imaginary world. Okay, how their life is being completely different when they are living with the microbes inserted in it. Okay, so such works can also be brought in. So other works like, I've not included, but I would like to tell some works like Craig Egan's Permutation City. Okay, so in that work you come across some short stories like Crystal Night and Learning to Be Me. Okay, so this work also you come across as in how the protagonist, okay, how the protagonists are able to collaborate with the electronic device and how they replace their organic brain so that they can get an immortal life. Okay, so this is very important. You can just note it down. Maybe at the end of the session, I will just like to bring it up. That is Craig Ian's work, that is Permutation City. Okay, so in this work, there are two stories that mainly talk about it. That is the Crystal Night and Learning to Be Me. So here you come across the electronic device, that is how they actually replace the organic brain in order to get the immortal. Okay, so that connection you can also see. Then this writer you must be aware of, that is Ken Liu, The Perfect Match. So here you come across like how we are all aware of Alexa and Siri. Okay, so that how they are able to access with the humans through the Alexa and Siri. That is what you see in The Perfect Match of Ken Liu. Okay, then the other writer, that is Ted Chiang. So Ted Chiang, you come across the life cycle of software objects, where you see as in what is the role of human in environment. So when we talk about the role of human in environment, is that it's not only that preserving the environment, but also apart from that, what are we contributing? So that's when here this novel you come across as in how the rights of an individual, the rights of an individual autonomy is being represented. Okay, so what are the other contributions that we can do when we emerge with the technology? So that's what he tells in the novel, The Life Cycle of software objects. Okay, and the last work that I would like to tell in the speculative fiction is Larissa Lay, The Tiger Flew. Okay, so what is this tiger flews here? Here you come across how the human, okay, the human is being categorized in a colonial history, okay, and how the flu, as in that is flu that has been actually been portrayed here, okay, and how that post-human condition is being brought in here. So the future concept of post-human is also being highlighted through these speculative fictions. Okay, so there are three important fictional texts that we need to look in when we talk about the speculative fiction and post-humanism. Is that the first one is Jane Strippery, The Girl Who Was Plugged In, and then you come across Donna Haraway's This Camille Stories, okay, and then Greg Egan's Pure Mutation City, okay. So in that, only two stories where we see it's about the replacement of the organic brain so that they can get the immortal life, and then the Ken Lu's The Perfect Match, and Ted Chiang, the life of software objects. So these are some of the important works when we talk about the speculative fiction and post-humanism. Okay, so that is the first thing that we see when we talk about the speculative fiction and the post-humanism. So now we'll move on to the next thing, that is post-humanism and medical humanities. Okay, so post-humanism and medical humanities. So before moving to the post-humanism and the merging of medical humanities, first we should know as in what is this medical humanities. We all know medical humanities is now become a contemporary theory. Okay, so here what we see is that medical humanities, it's a interdisciplinary method. Okay, so it's an interdisciplinary method in humanities where we come across, it's about the study of medicine and the merging of post-human bodies in it. So when we talk about the post-human bodies in the medical humanities, it's about the biotechnology and cosmetic surgery. Okay, so when we talk about this biotechnology and cosmetic surgery, so that's when it's about the patient. Okay, so the main thing is that what we see here is that the patient plays a major role when we talk about the medical humanities. So when we talk about the patient here, you see the patient mostly it's being connected with the ecology, and also how their health is being concerned, the global health, and with regards to the pandemic, and also with regards to the climate crisis. Okay, so here the main thing what we see here is that when we talk about the medical humanities, the main picture what we see here is that it's from the patient point of view. It's about how the role of the patient plays a major role here with regards to the ecology, and also with regards to the health issues, health which is being connected to the pandemic and also to the climate crisis. So this medical humanities itself, it's an umbrella term. Okay, so where we see the first one, what we see when we talk about the medical humanities is that it's about the study of literature and medicine. Okay, so the first one what we see here is that it's about the study of literature and medicine, and the second one what we see here is that it's about the history of medicine, the bioethics, and also the medical law. So these are the two different things that we come across. So when we talk about the medical humanities, it's about the first thing, it's about the study of literature and medicine. And the second one, it's about the history of medicine, bioethics, and medical law. So these are the two different things that we talk about. So this medical humanity. Okay, so what is the main reason why this medical humanities has been brought in literature is that, so when we talk about the medical humanity, that is a methodology that we have to see. Okay, so when we talk about the methodology, the first thing is about the healthcare. Okay, the first thing is what we see here is the healthcare and how the understanding of patient experience is being brought in, as in the clinical understanding. So when a doctor meets a patient, as in what sort of understanding that they first have. Okay, because the doctor has to converse with the patient and understand what is the what the person has come for. Okay, so that is what is the clinical understanding of the patient experience. Okay, that is what we see when we talk about the methodology. Okay, so in other terms, what we also know see is that medical humanities is also known as the health humanities. Okay, so this concept, that is the medical humanities, was actually born in the year 1970. Okay, so this was actually born in the year 1970, and it was put forward by the North American medical schools. Okay, so medical humanities was actually first originated in the year 1970, which was put forward by North American medical schools. Okay, so when we talk about that, the first writer or the first doctor, we can say, okay, so Annie Hudson Jones, Dr. Annie Hudson Jones, she's a literature scholar. Okay, so what she does is that she was actually living there to teach about the medical students, as in how you have to analyze the patients. First, you have to listen to the patient, and then you have to see how you're able to connect the patient experience to that of the literature. Okay, so it's like you're connecting the experience of a patient to that of a literature. Okay, so that's when Dr. Annie Hudson Jones, she actually took classes for these medical students, and that's when she brought up an essay, why teach literature and medicine. Okay, so this essay, if you're able to access, you can just read it. Okay, so this essay was actually where you come across as in how the literature plays a major role when we talk about the medical humanities. Okay, so here this was actually published in the year 2016. Okay, so when we talk about this literature and medicine, so this literature and medicine, there's another professor who also tells about literature and medicine, that is Jonah Trotman. Okay, so this literature professor, okay, so what does he tells is that he tells how a person, how you should treat a patient as a individual. Okay, how you should first have a good rapport with the patient, and then you have to analyze the story. Okay, as in you have to listen to the patient story. So what he defines medical humanities is that, what John Chartman defines medical humanities is that he tells how before treating a patient, you have to first understand the individual. You have to first talk to the patient as an individual. Okay, and then you have to have a good rapport with the patient, and then you can understand, you can listen to the patient illness or whatever it is, you can listen to the patient story, and then you can connect to the literature. That is what he tells, that is Jonah Trotman. So the other writer that whom we see here is Rita Charan. Okay, so this Rita Charan is that she's a medical doctor and also a literature scholar. Okay, so what does she tells is that she comes up with the concept of narrative medicine. So what is this narrative medicine is that it's a medicine, okay, that was actually practiced through interpretation of the stories. Okay, so for example, she might have heard this as in this Rita Charan, she would listen to the stories of the patients, and then she would be able to react to it. She'll be able to analyze, observe, and how she's able to interpret with the other literature stories. That is what the term, that is narrative medicine, is being brought in. So this narrative medicine is actually, to put it in simple words, it's a medicine that is actually being practiced with the narrative competence. So when we talk about the narrative competence, it's about a person's ability to acknowledge or to observe or to interpret the stories with the plight of others, as how you're able to connect the stories of others with that of the literature. That is what is narrative medicine that you see. Okay, so the next one what we come across is Jeffrey Bishop. So who is this Jeffrey Bishop? Is that he's the one who tells that how the medicine plays a major role when it comes to the body. Okay, so we all know how we are actually connected, right? As in, we know how we are connected with the soul, whether it is in conscious or unconscious level. Okay, and we also know when we go to a hospital, anything of that sort, we know doctor is always there to help us, and we also believe that they will actually treat our body in a very successful way. Okay, so that's what he also tells, that the medical humanities, what he defines is that it's about the actions, okay, the pragmatic action that's been put forward, and also how the body is being brought in, is being represented, as in how the humans are able to have a connection with the soul with regards to the conscious or to the unconscious level, and also how the doctors are able to successfully treat the body. That is what we see when we talk about the Jeffrey Bishop. And the next one, what we come across is that the critical medical humanities. So what is this critical medical humanities? So this critical medical humanities is, you come across this medical humanity, it actually merges with some of the critical theorists, like what I pointed here, Michael Foucault. Okay, so Michael Foucault, there are two important texts, but only one text I have highlighted. The first one is The Birth of Clinic. Okay, and the second one is The Society Must Be Defended. Okay, so when we talk about Michael Foucault with regards to the critical medical humanities, he comes up with some critical theories when we talk about the medical humanities. So that is in the work of The Birth of the Clinic and The Society Must Be Defended. So what does he tell is that he tells how the body is being represented, how a human body should be understood, okay, and how the individual human bodies are being playing a major with regards to the biopolitics. Okay, so what is this biopolitics? Okay, so this concept was actually put forward by Michael Foucault, where he tells us that control, as in a political control, is taken over the body. Okay, that is based on the punishment of the individual human bodies. Okay, so here what he tells, what he defines the biopolitics is that he tells that how the control is being done over a human body, as in the control, you can also talk about even the medicines that is being taking a control of our own body. Okay, so the control which is being taken over the body, and how we are actually being punished with the, as in how the individual human bodies is being punished. Okay, so that is what you can see here. Okay, so the other important writers is Susan Sontag. Okay, so in Susan Sontag's work, that is Illness as Metaphor and also AIDS and its metaphors. In this work, what you see here is that she brings in the concept of literature and medicine, where you come across, it's about the cancer patient. Okay, as in how the cancers and the AIDS patients are actually being portrayed here. So that thing you can come across, as in here the story what you see here is that a soldier, okay, a soldier is been fighting with this illness, okay, and he's not able to come out of that. Okay, even though he undergoes many treatment and everything, he cannot come out of that illness. So he's fighting a battle against the illness. Okay, so when he's fighting, that is a psychological burden that has been actually been drawn, as is been instilled in his mind, and that's when he's completely been traumatized through that illness. Okay, so this soldier is being represented as a, the soldier, you can see how he was actually fighting. So he is a cancer patient who's been fighting, okay, and unable to digest the fact that his illness can't be cured. Okay, so that's when that is a psychological burden in his mind. Okay, so that's what we see here. So the next one, what we see here is the posthumanism. Okay, so when we talk about the posthumanism in medical humanities, so when we talk about the posthumanism in medical humanities, it's about the narratives that is being brought in through biotechnology mechanism. Okay, so what is this biotechnology mechanism? So when we talk about the biotechnology mechanism, it's the healthcare. Okay, so how this biotechnology and healthcare is being fusioned. Okay, so for example, like biotechnologies or life extension, how they have been playing a major in our life, and how we are able to live through these technologies. Okay, and that is what this Susan that is what we see here when we talk about the posthumanism in medical humanities. So when we talk about the posthumanism medical humanities, it's about the biotechnologic mechanics, and also how the how this biotechnologies, these life extensions, and also how they take a different position on our human body, and how we are able to merge with the technologies and move ahead to a different world. That is what we see when we talk about the posthumanism in medical humanities. Okay, so this writer, that is Alison Kaffer, so what does she tell is that she tells in a work that is Feminist Cure Crip. In this work, you see as in how the cyborg bodies is being represented through media. Okay, as in through medicine, as in you come across the disability bodies, as in disabled bodies. Okay, how these disabled bodies are being represented through the prosthetics. Okay, how they are able to merge the technology, including the prosthetics. That is what we see in Aliza Keffer, Feminist Cure and Crip. And the next one, what we see here is Luna Dolezal. So this Luna Dolezal is, here what we see here is that Luna Dolezal, here she talks about the post-human body. Okay, so when we talk about this post-human body, she comes across a term that is morphological freedom. So what is this morphological freedom? Is that in this morphological freedom, we come to know how the humans are able to shape the human bodies, that is through the biotechnologies. So when we talk about the biotechnologies, just a second. So how are we able to talk about the biotechnologies? Is that how they're able to shape with the bodies and the biotechnology humans? Is that is the cosmetic surgery, okay, and also through laser treatments, then medicines, how their body is being modified and how their bodies is being reacted through these biotechnologies. Okay, so that's when this morphological freedom, what we see here is that it's the idea how the humans have the right to shape their bodies through biotechnologies. So when we talk about the biotechnologies, that is what is cosmetic surgery, lasers and medicine is being represented. Okay, and the next writer is Amelia D. Falco. So she tells in the work that is Real Humans. So what she tells is that it's about the concept of post-human care. So what is this post-human care? So this post-human care is that it's a figure of a care robot. Okay, so care robot where we see here, it's about the interdependence, the mutual interdependence, the understanding. Okay, so how we are able to embrace each one with a different species, as in how we are able to collaborate or entwine with a different species. Okay, so that's where the post-human care philosophy does. So here what we see here is that they embrace the individual subjects, okay, and how they are able to take care, as in with emerging with the microcosmic with the living beings. Okay, so basically this post-human interaction, when we talk about the medical humanities, is it's about the connection with the people and also with the missions that actually care for us. So when we talk about the caring missions, okay, so here, as I mentioned, the care philosophy. So when we talk about the care philosophy, it's about the care robots. So when we talk about the care robots, so it's actually the care robots is being it's been represented as a animated tool, okay, and how they have been effective missions, okay, and how they're able to take care of us, and how they actually play a major role when we talk about the technology cultures, technology narratives. That is what we see when we talk about the care robots. Okay, and the next writer, what we see here is Doris Sagan, that is Microcosmos. So microcosmos, that's 4 billion years of microbial evolution. So in this work, what we see here is that it's about the organism and also the bacteria and microbes, how they're able to associate with the people on earth. Okay, so basically it's about the environment, or the we also see as in how the bacterias and how these microbes, they have a complex things and how they are able to associate with the human beings on earth. Okay, so that's what Doris Sagan has put forward in this work. And now I'll cite some examples when we talk about the medical humanities. So when we talk about the medical humanities, the first thing that what we see here is that Steven Soderbergh's Contagion. Okay, so this movie, when you watch, you come across it's this movie was actually it was actually this movie you see, it's about the lockdown, it's during the pandemic, as in during the COVID-19, where you come across the patients who are actually been coughing, who are suffering from health, who because of health they are being death has been occurring to them. So what are the illness, as in what are the illness that has been occurring in this thing? So that is what this contagion is being represented. Okay, so the next, so this is a film text which I have highlighted, that is the film that is Contagion, Contagion. So in this Contagion, you come across the illness that is being associated with the COVID-19, okay, as in the patients who are actually been coughing with the blood and how their health is being deteriorated, and that leads to their death. So the next work, what we see here is Emma Carey's The Girl with the All Gifts. So in this thing, you come across a zombie plague. Okay, a zombie plague where you come across, it's about the zombies. Okay, how the zombies and the children have been given a special care. Okay, and how they have been treated. Okay, and the next one we come across the plague. Okay, so when we talk about the plague, it's about the fungals. Okay, especially how the fungus has been affecting the human body and how it completely changes them. So that is what we see when we talk about the plagues. Okay, and next one is Jack Finney. So Jack Finney's work, that is the Body Snatchers. Okay, so when we talk about the Body Snatchers, that is in the year 1955, we come across as in the relationship between the bodies and biotechnology. Okay, how the bodies and biotechnology is being brought in with regards to the posthumanism and medical humanism. As in, we see how they are, when we are merging with the technologies, when we are merging with the biotechnologies, we feel that we are being liberated from a human being. So that is what this medical humanities tries to bring in, as in when we are having a connection with the biotechnologies. Okay, so our life is being completely being different, and we are emerged as a true alterity, as in we are emerging as a new human being, and that leads to the true alterity. Okay, so that's what when we see when we talk about the medical humanities and the post-human. And other works that I would like to tell when we talk about this is Jack Finney's The Body Snatchers. Okay, Jack Finney's Body Snatchers is very important, and also Contagion. So, and the other thing when we talk about the medical humanities is the care philosophy. So this care philosophy, it's nothing but it's about the care robots, where robots is actually playing a major role in our lives. Okay, as in how their position is being taking a major role, and how they are being represented as a caregivers for our life. So that's it. Uh, yeah. So that's the session that we see about post-humanism and medical humanities, and also speculative fiction.
Ma'am,
Yeah.
uh, can you please provide a working bibliography so that or list down the different movies and books that you mentioned? Because
Okay. You want
all
me to mention in the chat box, or you want me to uh,
anything works, ma'am. You can either send it on the WhatsApp group or on chat box.
okay. Maybe I
Look,
will send it in.
Agnes,
Yeah.
sorry, Fensta, maybe you
Yeah.
can share the list with me, and I'll share it with participants on group, or maybe along with certificates when we send reference reading, we can share the list or bibliography with the participants.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. I will also mention some of the film text and also the fictional text that I have dealt here. Okay, I'll share it with Pradyuman sir once the FDP is done, so that you can, sir will forward it to you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Participants, feel free to ask questions or maybe the reading that you have with reference to that, if you would like to share something.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah.
First of all, thanks for giving me this opportunity, and it was a very insightful session. I really enjoyed it. I have a query, like as you mentioned earlier about the cyborgs, and that concept was given by though given by Nathan Klein, and then later it was developed by Donna Haraway. And in that cyborg, you mentioned that cyborg is actually, it is deconstructing the binaries. It deals with, the three binaries. First binary is between the human and the animals. And second binary is between the humans and the machines. And the third binary is between the, fiction versus reality. So my query is like, when we talk about, these three binaries, again, cyborg is about, deconstructing the position of the humans. It, doesn't, keep a human at the center, like what we said, anthropocentrism. No, it deconstructs it, goes totally against it. And, just gives the value to each and every entity, whether it's human, whether it's animal, whether it's, a machine, everything, it keeps everything at, the same place. My query is like, when we talk about the cyborgs, so cyborg again, on the name of, equality, on the name of, the deconstruction, again, it keeps the human at the center. And then from the human's point of view, it deconstructs everything. My question is, first, differentiate between the human, the three binaries, the human versus animal, the human versus machines, and the, fiction versus reality. That's my first question. And, keeping in mind, the next one is that, don't you think that, this cyborg is again keeping the human at the center, and then, it doesn't talk about, the animal versus machine. No, it talks about, human versus machine, human versus animals, human versus machines, and then fiction versus
Yeah,
reality.
that is what, as in when we talk about cyborg itself, cyborg is actually argumentation, as in entwinement of human and machines, right? So that is what basically a cyborg is. Okay, so what they reject here is that they are not completely against the animals or something like that, as in animals or materials or something. So here they are like, they rejects the modern concepts. So they not only completely ignore it, okay, but when it comes to the animal thing, I think we cannot talk about cyborg with reference, as in we cannot see how the cyborg actually rejects the human and the animal thing, because it's completely a different thing, because cyborg is actually being connected to the technology. It's not being connected with the animal species. So that's where the differentiation is.
Ma'am, I mean, like when we talk about the boundaries between the humans and the animals, okay, the first thing is that human itself is the social animal. Okay,
Yeah.
the first, thing is that cyborg, that differentiates between the social animal and the, wild animal. And the second thing is that it talks about, technology, and it influences on the social animal and the wild animal. Okay, I mean, where these boundaries are, be reaching, or what is the differentiation between, when cyborg talks about the humans and the animals, it doesn't mean that human becomes the complete animal, or animal becomes
Yeah.
complete human. There is still a boundary. So what is your standpoint? Where do you see that this boundary is created? I mean, what do
What
you
I
see?
feel is that mostly, as in the text which I have read and come across, I feel that it's mainly been connected with the technology. I feel, even though there has been connection to the animals and all those things, but I feel that is the main thing. What they feel is that it's only connected to the technological aspect.
Okay, okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Participants, feel free to ask questions if you have any doubt that you have.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening.
Ma'am, could you please throw some light on cyber feminism?
Cyber feminism is that it's about the from a feminist point of view how the cyber culture is being represented. Okay, so when we talk about the feminist cyber culture, I would like to tell about Pat Cadigan's work. So if you are interested, when we talk about the feminist cyber culture, as in the feminist cyber fiction, you can read Pat Cadigan's Sinners, as in how the characters is being represented from a feminist point of view. Okay, as in how the cyberspace or the cyber culture plays a major role from the through the female characters that you can see, and also some theories that we can also implement from the feminist aspect.
Ma'am, could you please make me understand from a layman point of view? Like, suppose if someone who doesn't know anything about cyber feminism, so could you
Cyber
please explain
feminism
me in
is,
that?
see, cyber feminism is basically what you see here is that it's about how women takes a major role there, and how she's been connected to the space, who's been connected to the internet and all those things. A woman who's taking a leading role. That is what is cyber feminism we see.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
All right, last call for questions, if any.
Hello, ma'am. Can I ask you something? So you discussed about posthumanism and transhumanism, right? So can we regard posthumanism and transhumanism as opposite concepts? Is posthumanism like totally opposite to transhumanism, or there is a connection, of course? But what I'm asking is, transhumanism is urging for it tries to expand the human abilities by using technology, right? So in that sense, can we
Yeah.
regard both as opposites?
It's not like opposite what we can see, what we can say, but there is a connection, because see, posthuman is something different and transhuman is the AI thing that what we see. So there is a connection, but it's a complete a different thing. And it's like an umbrella term under the posthuman that what we see. That's what in the beginning of the session itself, that's what I told, that posthumanism, as in humanism, when we talk about humanism itself, there are two terms that's what we see, that is posthuman and transhuman. Okay, so transhuman is through all these biotechnologies and all through AIs, that is what we see. But posthuman is completely a deconstruction of human. Okay, so that is actually a two different terms, but there is a link. That link is always there. That is because of the concept of human.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
I have a question. Could I ask?
Yeah.
Is there any relationship between critical medical humanities and environmental humanities?
In medical humanities, see, critical medical humanities is basically you come across this all these biotechnologies and all this illness that has been associated. But environmental humanities is something that where you talk about the environmental issues, like where you can also bring in anthropocene in that thing, but it's there's no connection between environmental and medical things. Medical humanities is basically is associated with the medicines, with the pandemics, okay, with the illness and all those things. So environmental is connected to the environmental issues. You can, when we talk about environmental humanities, it's there where you come across ecology, okay, ecology, anthropocene, that you can talk about, and also even climate change you can also bring in when we talk about the environmental humanities.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, participants. So seems there are no more questions. And with this, we can end the session here. Thank you, Fensta ma'am, and thank you all participants for coming up with your observations, questions, experiences of reading. We would continue the session tomorrow. So tomorrow it's 10 to 12 in the morning, and that's last session of the FDP. This recording would be available in 2 to 3 days, by Monday or Tuesday, on YouTube channel of Nucleus. So you can access this session. You can also inform your friends or colleagues who joined this FDP to access it. We will be sharing the link in WhatsApp group as well once it is uploaded. Feedback form link shall be shared at the end of tomorrow's session. And we will also share housekeeping information related to certificate tomorrow. All right. So with this, we end here. Thank you once again, Fenstaman. Thank you all participants.
Okay, thank you, sir, and thank you, participants.
Yeah. Thank you. Good night, everyone.